What is up, everyone? Welcome to TCR Live. Oh, having a little technical problems. I am joined by two of my favorite 15 YouTubers.
Oh,
Now you guys get to decide where you rank in 1 to 15. But no, I'm joined by two of my favorite people who I've had on the channel before. You all know and love them. We have Payo Time, Zach, and we have Josh Butts from No Butts About It. Two of my favorite people here to join us. And we were talking about this before we went live. I didn't plan it this way, but I love that it worked out this way. We're basically rehashing a beef between the Bengals and the Rams here because we got a Bengals fan and a Rams fan. And boy, these two were going at it. No, they're actually both so nice to each other. I was a little disappointed that we weren't getting the battle royale that I wanted, but I am joined by two of my favorite people. So glad to have them here on Mock Draft Monday, Payo and Josh. Payo, it's been a minute. Why don't you introduce yourself, say hey to the folks, and then we'll go to Josh.
hello, Cardinal Rule Crew. It's good to be back on Mock Draft Mondays, which I think is becoming one of my favorite off-season series. Is this the third year you've been doing it?
I feel like
More.
4 or 5
4
years.
or 5.
It's
10 years? 20
yeah,
years?
12 years.
Yeah.
Going strong. I think this is the 5th season of it.
Okay, cool. Season 5. So, you're almost catching up to Survivor. This is going on season 50, right?
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's great to be back here and love mocking the Cardinals. So why not come on Mock Draft Monday, right? But I am a Rams fan who has a YouTube channel called the Rams Radar with Payo Time. And I talk about the Rams. But tonight, don't worry, I didn't come in here to spew Rams propaganda. I'm going to give some insight into your new head coach. And also, my mock draft saves the Cardinals. So you're welcome.
Amen.
All right. So first of all, Payo is the first ever Rams fan I've ever met. So this is a historic moment for me.
Wow. I feel honored.
And I also feel honored that I'm the top 15 in all of those YouTubers. So, I mean, take that, Mr. Beast. But
well, he might be 15,
Yeah, I'm a Bengals fan. But we do No Butts About It. We cover everyone in the NFL. So if you're an NFL fan, we cover you. I always love coming on Joe's show. He's been very gracious to us on No Butts About It. So I see Silver Wolf is here. He said I'm Piper's dad. Yeah, so we've got lots of great stuff, lots of similar viewers. So it's great to be here, see some familiar faces in the chat, and hopefully you guys don't ridicule me too much for my mock draft. But I think it'll be good.
Brian saying Rams propaganda is still suspicious until proven otherwise.
I agree.
100%. Well, let's say hey to some of the folks in the chat. Obviously, Silverwolf and Silverwolf. I gotta tell you, before we went live, we were fighting over you. They said Josh was saying he's taking you. And I said you can't have him. Silverwolf is ours. Part of the TCR fan.
Well, let's let him choose. Maybe he wants to come to my channel.
You guys, I will fight you for Silverwolf. I will arm wrestle you for Silverwolf because listen, there's a lot of great folks.
I'll take that.
Right. Man, that word. He's got the gun show. Listen, there are so many great folks that I'm so appreciative of having here in the TCR family. Folks who've been part of the channel. Silverwolf is an OG, been here for a long time. Just always here, always supporting on Twitter, retweeting things I put out. Like I that does not go unnoticed, Silverwolf. You are definitely appreciated big time. We've got Classy Nasty here with the Gardecki. It was an image that used to be Gardecki, and it just says Gardecki. And we got Lorenzo Tahaftawa. Why do you still have this? Yeah, so it's not showing up on here, but it's a Steve Kime kind of icon that I've got. So I got to maybe adjust those. But we got some other great folks in here. Lance, longtime supporter of the channel as well. Hello, Yellow Fellows, hope all is well. We hope all is well with you, Lance. Appreciate you for show. So are we trading Joe Burrow to this pod? Yes.
No.
Yes?
I already deal with this with the Vikings fans. Let's not. This is not. We're not doing this today. No.
And Lance saying we're definitely on the up and up with this franchise and team. The most optimistic I've been since Nick Bosa was on the draft board. Let's knock this draft out of the park and get things rolling. We will be talking about the draft for sure. We've got Robert Moore. Good evening. Just appreciate you being here. And Simon Shee, thank you for being here. Simon. So some good folks in the chat. So yeah, listen, we've got a lot of stuff to get to. For Mock Draft Monday. So we're gonna get into it. And one of the things I like to do every episode is highlight a player, and this is kind of my process to help me learn about players. So each week I find a player who's likely in my mock draft, I try to go with players a little deeper dive, not just the obvious first round players, but players that maybe we might hope the Cardinals target on day 2 or 3, players that I think could fill a need, and players that we're not hearing about every day on Twitter, on all the the standard first round mock kind of stuff. So this week I'm going to highlight a receiver, and I put out a tweet asking Jace. If you don't know Jace, you need to follow him. He's a great follow on Twitter, part of our community, and he's doing a lot of great analysis on players. And I asked him for a list of some receivers that are day 2, day 3 receivers that he likes, because I think there's a chance the Cardinals might look to take a receiver, maybe a slot receiver. We've got Michael Wilson had a breakout year. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been slow getting going. He's been good, but not as good as people expected. But I think our top 2 receivers are going to be set. And then we've got Trey McBride. But behind those 2 guys, it's a lot of late round or undrafted guys. And I feel like there's a need to add maybe one more depth receiver, certainly someone who can play in the slot. So he shared some names, and one of those names is a guy named Skyler Bell. That's who I'm gonna highlight. Now, Skyler Bell is 6 foot, 185 pounds, out of UConn. He's more of kind of a slot receiver, though he can move around a lot. The scouting profile, is that he's a savvy technical route runner. Can be used in movement, which I know the Rams, as Peo will talk about, like to do that a lot. So I think that having someone that can move around like that might be a nice fit for LaFleur. He's really good fit for that role. A lot of production, like 101 receptions. He's a little bit leaner frame, but there are receivers who are successful with that build. And if he's not your number 1, number 2 receiver, you can live with that. So he's a guy I really like as kind of a potential later round receiver, maybe day 2, day 3 receiver, probably between rounds 3 and 4 was where you're looking at him for the Cardinals. So I think I could see them taking receiver. I usually have a receiver on most of my mock drafts, just a little bit in the middle rounds. Have you had any thoughts on Skyler Bell?
Nope. I don't, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. You're learning about him today.
Yes.
Zach, could you maybe speak to, though, maybe like what not as much necessarily about the player, but the thinking about Mike LaFleur and where he's coming from the Rams and how this kind of receiver fits in that sort of offense?
Yeah, if Mike LaFleur runs any kind of offense similar to what the Rams have been running, expect a lot of pre-snap motion. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It really is, right? And there'll be some drives where almost every play looks exactly the same, but it could be a run play. It could be a slant play. It could be a hook and ladder. Like, there's so many things you can do out of it. And that scheme is about creating variance, even though it looks the same pre-snap motion, and they do a lot of things with it. So I could see Skyler Bell being used in that way, similar to, I would say a comparison right now would be Jordan Whittington with what kind of he does for the Rams.
Okay, nice. So you see this as could be a good fit if a player like that, then it sounds like, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Well, appreciate that insight. So this is, again, I'm looking for these receivers in these later rounds, and this seems like potentially a good fit. It's not a top need for this team. I think there are bigger needs like tackle and edge rusher, but getting another receiver in there in the depth, I think, makes sense. Well, we're going to get into the mocks, and I've asked each of these gentlemen to prepare a mock draft. And we're going to go with Pale. He has made some bold claims that this will fix the Cardinals. So we're going to see what he has to offer here, Peo. So with your mock draft, walk us through your thought process on each of these picks and tell us exactly how this is saving the Cardinals franchise.
Okay. Well, so first off, I think that the number 3 overall pick, you got to take the superstar that's on the board, and I think that Ruben Bain is that the Cardinals need more star power, and I think Bain's going to be a star in the NFL. So I think I had to pick him there. But then you'll notice that I picked a lot or 3 offensive linemen, and I think that this draft, that is what the name of the game is. You cannot run the scheme that Mike LaFleur will want to run if he does not have an O-line he can trust. Don't forget, he was the scapegoat for the Zach Wilson fiasco in New York with the Jets. He was the offensive coordinator who got fired. The Rams quickly picked him up. And though he did not call plays for the Rams, because Sean McVay does that, he is someone that on an intellectual level absolutely can challenge McVay. I've watched a lot of Mike LaFleur press conferences. I love hearing him talk football. He's just a really good dude that way. And I would be shocked if the Cardinals' number 1 priority this offseason is fix the offensive line. Get an offensive line that can, hold protection for more than what Kyler Murray's had throughout his career. The Ted Hurst pick, I thought that was really good value at the 104 spot there. He's a receiver that I'm definitely watching going into this draft that I think could be good mid-round value. And then the reason why I picked Mike Washington Jr. is, well, the Cardinals backfield is, not the greatest. No offense, James Conner.
Well, and he might be gone. I mean, people
Right.
expect he's going to be cut, right?
Well, and I just think so. McVay has drafted a running back every single draft. He's been the head coach for the Rams. Not that Mike LaFleur is going to be McVay, but I could see that being a thing where just always consistently be developing a running back. In this scheme, running backs have to pass protect. The Rams have had a lot of talented young running backs that have not started because they didn't know how to pass protect, right? Kyron Williams, one of the reasons why the Rams gave him a second contract is because he's one of the best pass blocking running backs in the NFL. No one gives him credit for it. But him and Blake Corum do a great job of it. And so I think that you can expect the Arizona Cardinals to draft a running back mid to late round at some point in this draft for them to continue to develop. But I do think this is going to be a kind of meat and potatoes type of draft for the Cardinals with a little bit of seasoning, with getting Bain up there at the number 3 pick.
Nice. Josh, do you have any thoughts on Zach's draft?
Yeah, so I mean, Bain, you're going to see I didn't take him. I'll explain why later.
Ooh.
But Bain is a intense beast. Love the pick. I mean, there's so many great guys in this draft at that 3 pick that it's going to be very hard to mess that up. Bain is just a fantastic player, so I do love that pick. But another pick, and it's a guy who I haven't seen people talking about a lot. I've been trying to make a video on him, but I haven't been able to find any highlights for him. Jake Slaughter out of Florida. He is fantastic. I think he has gone very under the radar. Maybe here with the combine, maybe we'll see him get talked up a little bit more. But I think that's a fantastic pick right there at round 3. I've seen him mocked there in round 3 quite a bit. I've even seen him go up into round 2, though, for the guys that really like him. So if he's there in round 3, I think that's a fantastic value for him.
Yeah, I like that you're addressing the offensive line. I think they're going to I suspect they will sign a tackle in free agency, but not a high-end one, someone who can start if they need to, but they'll also draft a tackle. And, and Lance here is talking about so many mock drafts have had the Cardinals taking a tackle. at 3, and I don't like the tackles are available at number 3 are good, but they're not that good. You know what I'm saying? They're guys who like Fuaga and the other the guys that are available there are guys that would and I think most draft classes be taken at like 12 to 15. And at 3 feels early for the high end tackles, but there's some good tackles on day 2. So I like the idea, and I agree with him, like, take one of those more elite players and get a tackle in free agency and take someone on day 2 at tackle and develop someone, but get that difference maker. And I also I think and I put out a tweet about this today, but the Cardinals are rumored to be interested in going after Breece Hall, which makes a lot of sense. There's a connection there.
Yeah.
And I hope they do. It's a move I would like. So I still could see them taking a running back later in it still, because you want to develop that room. But I will say what I like about Washington, there are other running backs I also very much like. But you mentioned, he's a big guy, and so hopefully with the pass blocking that helps, 6'2", 228. But what's interesting to me, when I look at running backs in PFF, one of the things I really look at, there's a couple deeper grades and things that really translate well to the NFL with running backs. And those are elusiveness rating and yards after contact, right? Like college running backs who have good elusiveness, that's a rating that shows how much they make people miss. And yards after contact, right? You can get running backs on a good team that get great blocking and get yards, but the ones that have good elusiveness and yards after contact are making stuff happen on their own. And for a big guy, his elusiveness rating is 73.2. In and of itself is not elite, but for a big guy who's more of a power back, that's pretty good. Yeah. And I've looked at the elusiveness rating on a lot of running backs, and there are guys who are better for sure, but guys his size aren't usually that good. But the yards after contact 3.86 is really high end, which you would expect for a big guy. But so I like seeing that in a running back. So I really like that as one of the potential guys. So listen, I'm not sure if you saved the Cardinals with this mock draft, but I like Freeling. I like Bain. I like some things you did here. So I don't hate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Real quick, I want to say to some of the other folks that are in here that have jumped in. We've got Grandizer, who is the best guy in the business, the best in the business mod, doing what he does best, supporting, showing support, sharing the links. Grandizer is OG. We got Rams House 102. What's up, guys? Thanks for a fun show. Appreciate you being here with us, hanging out with us. Faux show. So thank you all for hanging out with us. I hope there's no one else that I've missed, but appreciate everyone jumping in tonight. So, Josh, do you think you can save the Cardinals?
I don't know. Probably. Are they savable?
Ow! I set you up for that. That's fair.
They're due for a good year. It's been a while.
It has been. They're overdue for a good.
Yeah.
They've been due for a good year for a few decades, but let's see what you got, Mr. No Buts About It.
Okay, so I appreciate you dragging down all the tackles right before we did this.
Yes. You're welcome.
So my pick was another Miami guy, but I picked Francis, and I always say his name wrong, Magoa.
Waga or something like that.
Waga, yeah.
I'm probably not quite right.
But anyway, the reason I picked him at 3 is because, in my opinion, the drop after him and Fano is just such a huge tier. And what I really wanted to focus on for my draft was the front 7 on the defense and then the O-line on the offense. I kind of went into this thinking maybe Jacoby. I'm doing what I wish the Bengals had done. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to save you guys ahead of time.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Anyway. And then I didn't really like where we were at later, so I traded back. Didn't like anyone there, so I got some extra picks I traded with the Texans. They wanted that pick. I forget who they took with it, but and then I went O-line again, and Emmanuel Pregnon is someone who I really like, a guard, and I'm just trying to protect whoever that quarterback is, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, whether it's a rookie. I've seen Kirk Cousins linked to you guys randomly. If it's a veteran guy, you're going to want him protected because he's older, more prone to injury. Get those guys protected, get them used to it, and then even next year, if you take a rookie, those guys will have more chemistry on that front line. Round 3, my options here were defensive interior or quarterback. And I didn't want to take any of the quarterbacks that early. And I know, I believe Calais Campbell, he's a free agent. I believe there's a few other guys. Walter Nolan struggled with some injuries in his rookie season. So Dominique Orange isn't my favorite pick here, but he was someone who I felt met the Cardinals' needs well. And he was there, and I didn't want to take a quarterback at this position, and that's kind of what I was stuck with. Round 4, Jacob Rodriguez, that's a pick I really like. I've made a video about Jacob Rodriguez. He has done a ton of turnovers, or gotten a ton of turnovers in his college career. I know that the linebackers have... Are we going to sign our first round pick? Okay, you're going to send me off on an entirely different tangent here.
Carry on.
I have videos about that on my channel, so go look those up. Anyway, but Jacob Rodriguez, he's a turnover machine. He creates big plays. He's a high IQ player. He's mastered the peanut punch. However, that does come with missed tackles. That's kind of why he's so low. I think he's got like a 13.1% missed tackle rate, which I don't like. But also, he's very smart. He doesn't, punch out the ball on like 4th down if you're going to get the ball anyway. He knows he's just got to make the stop. So he is a smart player in that respect. This was in round 4, second pick here. This was another situation. I'm just... defensive interior. There were no edge rushers here. I think it was still quarterbacks. It was Carson Beck. I'm not doing that to you guys. I just went defensive interior again. Yeah, Rodriguez is a monster. He's awesome. I made a video on him. He's a great player. I love him. I think him and Cody Simon. I know Cody Simon has shown some flashes, but I think Jacob Rodriguez could really be that machine. And then we get into round 5. And this was here where I felt safer taking a quarterback because Cade Klubnik is a guy who has shown flashes. He's shown he can be a good prospect, but just kind of had a rough end to his college career. And here, if you have, let's say you get rid of Kyler Murray, let's say Jacoby Brissett is gone next year. Worst case scenario, Cade Klubnik is a viable backup, I think. And so in best case scenario, he becomes your starter. So if you get your starter in round 5, that's awesome. But see what happens. I thought Cade Klubnik was really good here. I took him, and worst case scenario, you get a good. There were no centers available, Grandizier, at that point. But yes, I agree. I even said I like Jake Slaughter's pick. Jake Slaughter was not available at the time. But anyway, and then. Round 6, I went tight end. I know you got Trey McBride. I love Trey McBride. But Tanner Koziel, another name I can't say, he was available. And he's someone he's another really good pass-catching tight end. But he's also someone who can block. He's not the best blocker. But something the Bengals have ran into is defenses tee off based on who their tight end is. If Mike Gesicki is out there, they know it's a pass play. If Drew Sample's out there, they know it's a run play. So I wanted someone who has that kind of variation, and you wouldn't like immediately alert the defense based on him being lined up out there. And I think he's someone who, if God forbid Trey McBride were to go down for a game or two, you could have him out there as a pass catcher, but also he's not going to tee off that defense. And then Robert Henry Jr., I wanted to get you guys a running back. Not my favorite running back in the class, to be honest, but he could be a lot better. His main issue from what I've watched of him is he seems to abandon the scheme. If he would stick to his lanes and the position that he's supposed to be in and follow his blocks, I think that he would be a lot better runner and he would get a lot more yards, but he's not there yet. So hopefully he can get there, but we'll see.
Awesome. Zach, do you want to jump in and comment on any of Josh's picks?
Yeah, Josh, I really appreciate you kind of giving the rationale for each of your picks here. I personally think that there is something to be said about the Cardinals trading back. And I know like a lot of fans say they're like, oh, just trade the pick, like get more draft pick stuff. But at some point you do have to pick quality players to improve your team, or at least try to. But I think in the Cardinals situation, quantity might be the way to go. And so I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with trading back and getting more draft capital. But I do think that the Cardinals' biggest need is addressing the offensive line. So I have no issue with taking a tackle with the third overall pick. In round 2, taking a guard, for helping with that interior, whoever's playing quarterback here. And then I do, I agree with Grandizer there, right? The defensive interior, like 2 of them in the mid rounds there. Not sure that would be the top priority for the Cardinals. But yeah, no, I think this is a good mock draft. I have no desire to mock it.
I would say if I had Jake Slaughter available, he would have been right there in round 3. He just was gone.
Fair.
So Robert says it's Ma'inoa.
Ma'inoa. Okay. I will never forget that.
Yes. So, like this is a weird draft for me because we're picking 3. We really need a quarterback. I think we're moving on from Kyler, but there isn't a quarterback worth taking at that point. And if there isn't, then you're like, okay, well then there's probably an elite player at other positions. And I think there is, but like to me, the most elite players are positions I don't want to take at number 3: linebacker, safety, running back. I think Bain is a really good player. He's a little bit short arms, but high motor, good against the run. He's going to be a solid pro, but I don't think he's a Will Anderson level edge, right? I think he might get double-digit sacks, but I could see it being much more likely he is a guy with 8 sacks who's stout against the run. I'll take that. But I'd prefer taking someone higher upside at number 3. Tackle, like I said, like Moa and the tackles that are projected to go early here are good, but they're not at the level we're used to this high, right? So for me, I'm all for trading back if we can find a partner who wants to trade up. If you can find someone who's interested in trading up to 3 and you can move back to like 5 or 7 and then take one of the tackles or take another position, I'm good with that. But if we're sticking, for me, it's going to be Bain probably if he's there. If he's not, then you have to look at other things. I do like the tackles on day 2. They're not high end, but we need a right tackle, not a left tackle. So I'm a little more comfortable taking a guy to develop like that. But I love Rodriguez. I love that pick. I think he's the inside linebacker is a need to upgrade there. So I love that. Grayson Halt, and I really like him as a interior defensive lineman later. And interior defensive line is a need. We know, like I said, we've got Calais Campbell's a free agent. We've got Dalvin Tomlinson's kind of older, a guy we brought in. Walter Nolan flash, but he's been injured. Like it's a position where we need to build some young depth at defensive interior line. So I take an interior defensive lineman in pretty much all my drafts. I don't hate taking 2, but if I'm taking 2, one of them is probably in round 6 or 7, and the other one's earlier. But I love it. Klubnik, I'm really intrigued by because like I think of the day 3 quarterbacks, he's the one that might be the best fit for the system. He looks like that Shanahan style. He had a step down last year compared to the year before. He probably is more of a I don't want to say high floor, but his floor is higher than his ceiling. If that makes doesn't quite make sense, but that's weird inversion. No, but like he's more of a floor player than a ceiling player. How about that?
Right.
The
I'd
upside
agree.
is limited, but he's a guy that you could probably get in there who fits the system, who could be that backup like you talked about. So, and like tight end, like we have, Isaiah Higgins, who's a nice kind of dual threat or more of a receiver, really. And then we have the guy we drafted last year, Tip Ryman, who's got injured, but he's more of a blocking guy, really physical. So we have some depth, but I don't hate the idea of a late tight end because they're going to use them a lot, right? So if I'm going tight end, though, it is in the last couple of rounds like you did. So overall, I don't hate it at all. I think there's some really nice players.
I appreciate that. And I completely get what they're saying about taking a center in round 3 or round right. But the way my draft fell, I would have had to reach so far.
Yeah.
Like it would have been worse. I did take BPA there and it was a need as well. So it worked out.
I will say actually though, our center is pretty good. Yelda Froholt, he's like grade wise has been like a top 10 center since they brought him in as a free agent. He's a little bit older, like he's late 20s, approaching 30. I don't think you need to go center early. If you're going center, I think you're going someone late to develop. So I'm not going center early. If I'm going into your offensive line, it's usually a guy who's more of a guard.
Okay.
So I don't hate that. Lorenzo Tuato is saying, I believe they're going to take 2 defensive line. Rollis likes to rotate them. I think right now, Cardinals, our offensive line need is so bad. It really is. Right tackle is the biggest need on this team aside from quarterback. And it's not even close in my opinion. And people are talking edge, though we need some help at edge, but Josh Sweat was pretty good for us last year. We need to develop, we need to get someone else across from him who can put up sacks. But I think people are forgetting how big of a need this team has at defensive line, in my opinion. So let's see. Granddaughter is hearing another Cardinals podcast that they were saying the Cards need right tackle, right guard, center, and left guard. So let me talk about that quickly. We definitely need right tackle. We need a starting right tackle, and we need a swing tackle. We need 2 tackles, really. Guard is weird because we have 3 young guys who all have shown promise, but none of them have established themselves, okay, and when it comes to our guards. And what we have, and I'm going to the Cardinals roster real quick, but like the guys we have, Isaiah Adams, all right, so he's a 3rd-round pick. He's, he has struggled, but he's been a starter. He got better at the end of the year. Then we have John Gaines, who was a guy who missed his rookie year, but he was a 4th-round pick we drafted, who played some last year, started, and had a couple really nice games, but a couple down games. He's a guy who had really good physical tools when they drafted him. And then Hayden Connor, we drafted him out of Texas. He was a tackle at Texas, but we moved him to guard. He played a couple games, had a grade of 65.8 overall. So like we've got these 3 young guys, all of which we've drafted within the last 3 years. I think at least one of them is going to be a solid starter once they kind of get up and going. I actually kind of think Gaines is a guy I think is intriguing, but I think we're going to get at least 1 starter out of those 3, maybe 2, potentially. So like guard is tricky. Like, yeah, we need better play at both guard positions, but I don't know that we need to bring in 2 guards. Maybe we bring in 1 more, and between those 4, we find 2 starters. Center is Hjelda Froholt graded 69.4 this year and 76.1 the year before. That's not bad. Like he was a 14th highest graded center this year. He was top 10 last year. Center is not an immediate need, but that's a position you want to develop for his future replacement, right? So that's how I size up the offensive line needs for what it's worth. So I like that. Let me bring up mine now. Chris Young saying a linebacker with 13% missed tackle rate will fit in great with this defense, especially with how they ended the season. So listen,
That's a
that's
Cardinal.
it's on brand for the Cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So here is the TCR mock draft for this week.
I love Aiden Fisher.
Ooh, so we've got a good start. Okay. And you being from Indiana, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I started off with Bain, right? If I'm sitting at 3 and if I'm sticking and picking, that's the guy I want, right? There's other guys I do like, but I'd prefer to trade back. If I'm sticking there, that's the guy. We've talked about him a lot. Not going to go into more of that. Round 2. Now, the guy out of Max Ikeanakor, or I am an anchor, people sometimes say, out of Arizona State University, is the guy I often take there. He's very popular because, for Cardinals fans, because he's there in Tempe in the Phoenix area. I intentionally went with a different tackle because I wanted a different look this week. I think I like taking tackle in round 2. I think there's some guys that are intriguing that I like developing as that right tackle. And if we bring in a free agent to kind of help offset that, I like that approach. So I went with Blake Miller and mixed it up. He is out of Clemson, 21 years old, 6'6", about 310, 315. His scouting report says he's got a mean streak to him, some good natural strength, and also movement. So, he's kind of mobile. So I know there's a question of how much is LaFleur going to do what McVay does versus what he did when he was Jets, where he was more wide zone. Does he just totally take on McVay? I did a little looking into like what other coaches that came from McVay did they keep his system when they went on, and it's mixed. Some of them have kept parts of it, some of them kept most of it, some of them changed a bit. So I think the question is he doing wide zone or more gap scheme, and so. But this is a guy who has the mobility if he does the wide zone, but also has a strength if he does the gap scheme. He's had some injury issues. That's kind of the issue, but he could be a good fit. So, I very often take tackle in second round if I go something else in the first round. Then in the third round, Skyler Bell, who I talked about before, get that slot receiver, add some depth to the room, right? Yes, we have a lot of needs on defense, but this is an offensive head coach, so he might want a toy to play with, right? Then in round 4, I got some interior offensive line help with Billy Schrouth. I'm probably mispronouncing it, guard from Notre Dame. Powerful 6'4", 302, a high IQ lineman who I think is both mobile but also will kind of do well in the gap scheme. So this is a guy you bring in with those other 3 young guards and let them do the Hunger Games and see which 2 end up surviving to start, right? And I kind of like that approach, like get 4 young guys with talent and let them duke it out and let the 2 best guys start. Then I had a traded Kyler Murray to the Jets for a 4th rounder and a future 5th. There's some question, will he get traded? What will they get for him? The Jets seem to be a big target. So that's what I went with. And I went with some defensive line help, but I went with Tim Keenan out of Alabama, 6'2", 320. This is a nose tackle. And we're going to need some disruptors, but we also are going to need a nose tackle, whenever Dalvin Tomlinson moves on, right? And so, if you want a different type of interior defensive lineman, that's fine. They need to build depth along the way. But I liked this guy as that kind of run stopper, gargantuan sort of nose tackle for Walter Nolan to play alongside. Then got the linebacker. And if y'all are familiar, I don't know if you're familiar, but I've got the Monty chart. You're familiar with that? I've got this chart that like a sort of a heat map that shows kind of where the front offices he's worked with, what positions they take in which round. And linebacker in round 5 is a really big hot spot. Like front offices, the Patriots front office in particular, really like taking linebackers in 5th round. I think he's even drafted one here in that round. So I went with Aiden Fisher, kind of more of a green dot Mike kind of linebacker. They need help at the linebacker. You mentioned, Simon, right? Cody Simon, who had his moments. He played for a rookie, played well. They've got a couple other guys that they've brought in, guy from the Bengals who was, so. But they need some more help at the linebacker. They need that room needs a lot of help. Then in the 6th round, Bishop Fitzgerald's a really interesting guy, 5'11", 205 safety out of USC. He's a ball hawk. He's played all over, deep, box, slot. Jalen Thompson's a free agent, and this is a guy who's built a lot like Jalen Thompson. I just saw this as sort of a replacement. Not to say he's at the same level, but you've got Buda Baker and Rabbit and Keaton Crawford. Bring another guy into the room to develop who might be a starter at some point. So this is a guy to try to help fill the spot that we're losing with Jalen Thompson. And then round 7, Eli Heidenreich. Now, I will say I didn't take a halfback in this because I built this with the idea that Breece Hall or another running back gets signed here. So in a world where they sign Breece Hall, Heidenreich becomes sort of, some people have compared him to Juszczyk, but he's not as big as Juszczyk. I actually the guy I've kind of been thinking about is like a Danny Woodhead kind of comparison.
Oh.
Closer build to Danny Woodhead than he is Juszczyk. But what you get here is sort of this, kind of slot back, kind of H back. He's a willing blocker. He's just a little small, but he's a good receiver, a gadget player. So if they're bringing in a workhorse back like Breece Hall, this would be a kind of nice change of pace guy to move around and do some interesting Shanahan McVay type things with. So I really like Eli Heidenreich. He's in a lot of my mocks. So that's what I got. What say you, Zach? Let's start with you.
Oh, Joe, no, this is the worst. No, just kidding. No. I like some of the stuff you did here. I do, again, like the trade compensation on these mock draft simulators, I feel like is just so inconsistent to what trades actually happen. I do think because of Kyler's contract, and you know more about it than I do, but to my knowledge, it might be a Brock Osweiler situation for that.
I don't know that it'll be quite. I think there's going to be one of two things. Either they will get a trade for him, someone will decide they want to take it on, like the Jets, or will release him.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those two things.
I can see it. Yeah. So again, like I think putting Kyler Murray in some sort of trade situation will impact the Cardinals draft, whether they get a pick for him or not. Absolutely, right? Because then the Cardinals definitely might be looking at a quarterback, maybe not at that number 3 pick, but in round 2 or 3, it's got to be a priority, right? So I like what you did here, though, with Blake Miller at a Clemson in the 2nd round. I think is probably my favorite pick on this mock draft here. And I see you got our mock draft Monday's player of the week, Skylar Ball. That's cool. Represent. But yeah, I think that this is definitely a mock draft that I don't necessarily see happening, but it does address a lot of the Cardinals' need. I don't see you taking a fullback, Joe. Come on. In a modern NFL offense, who's taking a fullback?
It's that, and he's not a traditional fullback in that regard.
Okay, yeah.
That makes sense. He's not a big, like, thick-necked bruiser. He's a little smaller. So I hear that, and if he were that traditional, probably not.
Yeah.
But he's almost more like a third down back / slot receiver / gadget guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah.
I could definitely see if the Cardinals started running more like 11 personnel as like similar to what the Rams did like two years ago. I could see them having like some sort of purpose for. I know the Rams used to have a player named Ben Skoranek who was a wide receiver, but they had a fullback role for him, and he did quite well at it. So
that's who this would be. Do you see? So a player like that, do you think that could work? For...
Yeah. That I agree with what Grandiers is saying here. Maybe a gadget type of player. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Well, I think Josh knows who the Skoranek guy is, don't you?
Yeah, he's from my hometown. He went to my rival high school. Yeah.
What? Have you met him?
I have not met him, but I've watched him play when he was in high school.
Yeah. He's done incredible for a 7th round draft pick who mainly is a special teams guy. He's had quite the career.
And my buddy works for the Steelers, and he just got me his locker room plate. It's the only piece of Steelers merch that I own.
Whoa, that's cool. That's hardcore.
Nice. All right. Well, I appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Let's see. Lorenzo saying, I really hope they don't cut Kyler. If not, trade partner before free agency.
Mhm.
Keep him till season or trade or earlier. We'll have more desperate teams for better trade value. Sadly, because of the what's going on with his contract, there's like some of it that kind of becomes guaranteed after a particular day in March. I think they're going to move on from him and sooner rather than later. We'll see. We've talked about that a lot. So
So it's just, and I don't want to talk about Kyler Murray's contract all stream, but just out of curiosity, is it backloaded pretty? Like, what's the dead cap this year if they were to cut him?
the dead cap, there's a bit of dead cap. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. There's a good chunk. It's not insignificant.
I'm just
But
looking
they
it up
they
here.
would be able to work with it because they wouldn't, they have some things they can move around. They could absorb it. I don't remember what it is, but a lot, next year's wouldn't be as bad. But
So
yeah,
I have it here on Over the Cap
okay,
in front
good,
of
good,
me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so the dead cap this year, if he were to be cut pre June 1st, is 54.7 million.
yeah. I think I don't know how accurate that is because there's a date in March where some certain amounts of that become guaranteed. I know
Okay.
sometimes those things are tricky. I think it's a bit smaller than that, but it's not insignificant. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, March 15th, 2027 base salary is guaranteed. It has a note on it.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Rook
Cool.
Granddad's asking James Conner is last year will he get cut? Yeah, I think he will be released. He's one of those people. He was injured, obviously. And I think he's probably a cap casualty. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I've looked at those numbers before, and I know because of some of that, it's a little tricky with that. In terms of how much does that affect that. And then there's always obviously the post June, designation, but
Yeah.
then there's difference in the trade. So there's there's a lot of kind of variables in that.
Yeah.
And so there would be a dead cat hit. Unfortunately, it seems like they're like all the tea leaves point to him moving on, or
Yeah.
to them being out on him. But we'll see, right? But it seems that way, yeah. Um, okay, well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into the mock drafts that have been submitted by our viewers,
Cool.
and we're gonna totally grill the hell out of those. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. We'll,
Ours are so much better.
yes, right, exactly. So first up, we have Chris Young, who was in the chat.
Yeah.
He's
Chris.
got Ruben Bain, Blake Miller. Hey, so we got the first two. Then Kamari Ramsey, safety out of USC. Emmett Johnson, running back Nebraska. Bryce Lance, wide receiver North Dakota State. I believe Trey Lance's brother, I believe. Cole Payton, also he's got his quarterback from North Dakota State, and then linebacker Eric Gentry out of USC. Josh, we'll let you get started. What any picks that you like here or stand out to you?
Well, I like the Ruben Bain pick, and I like the Blake Miller pick, getting a tackle. But I find it interesting that he kind of didn't really go to the trenches. Like we all three of us, I think, prioritized trenches, which he did with the edge and offensive tackle. But then after that, he kind of left that alone. He went safety in the third round, running back 2 picks later. That's a little high for me, maybe, but maybe that's what you need. Especially if you cut James Conner, it's just kind of an interesting draft philosophy, I guess. But maybe it'll work out.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? Anything stand out to you?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna get excited about when I look at this year's quarterback, class coming into this draft. They're getting some pretty negative PR cycles right now. Let's call it like it is, but you never know. Out of that crop of quarterbacks, you might get a Brock Purdy, right? You might get that late round draft pick that people overlooked, they underestimated, and it turns out he steps onto an NFL practice field and his whole team just goes, whoa, look at that guy, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't think that Cole Payton is a bad pick there late. And so that kind of sticks out to me. And I would also say I feel like because of where the Cardinals are at, there, and Mike LaFleur being kind of an offensive minded head coach, I think they have to prioritize playmakers. I know they have Marvin Harrison Jr. I know they have Michael Wilson, but getting a running back and even getting another wide receiver, I think is totally in play for those top 3 picks for the Cardinals.
Yeah, Chris was mentioning in the Discord that Bryce Lance is a receiver I should look at, right?
Okay.
So Trey Lance's brother, and he's 6'3", 209 pounds. Playing, with North Dakota State University, the level competition's not, the SEC, right? It's a lower level competition, but his grades 89.3 receiving grade this year, 86.7 last year, over 1,000 yards back to back seasons. This year, yards per reception 21.2. 8 touchdowns, 17 touchdowns last year. Again, level of competition, but Bryce Lance is interesting. Just a big guy, right? You throw it downfield to. He's a little bit older as a prospect, I believe, but that's an interesting guy to look at, right? Is a big late round receiver, right?
Would he be comparable to Alec Pierce?
Maybe, and another guy I was thinking was maybe also. I'm not saying he's at this, but Christian Watson.
Okay.
That's another guy that I think about because Christian Watson also played in North Dakota State University. Maybe that's why. And he's 6'4", 208. Alec Pierce, looking him up, Alec Pierce is 6'3". He played at Cincinnati, right? Yeah, so it could be that kind of both, the big, like Alec Pierce is a guy, 1,000 yards on 50 40 something.
Right, yeah.
Lots of yards per reception, right? So I see why you're making that comp. Yeah. So he is kind of maybe that kind of he's definitely a big receiver like those guys are. So I think that's an interesting player to look at. So I kind of like that one. Yeah. Next up, we have Brian.
I like this guy.
We have 2 Brians here. Now he did through this full simulator website, and he has cuts and some restructures and free agency. He has them bringing back Jalen Thompson. He has them Brees Hall, Devin Lloyd, Sheldon Rankins, and Christian Kirk coming back. Interesting. But his draft picks, Muanoa. I'm just going to keep intentionally mispronouncing. I'm sorry. Edge Mason Thomas in the 2nd round. Dominique Orange, who you had, right? Jacob Rodriguez. Yeah. Kalen Rutledge, who's one of my favorite day 3, day 2. He's probably more day 2 guards. Eric Rivers, wide receiver out of Georgia Tech. Devin Marshall, cornerback. Le'Veon Moss, running back, Texas A&M. What say you, Zach? We'll start with you.
Okay, first off, what is it they use to do this? That's cool. And
I forget what the name of the website is, but it was shared on Twitter. I saw, and they let you. If someone can remember, share.
Yeah,
I kind of cropped it to cut that out, but to fit here. But yeah, they let you run a whole simulation. It's
I like it. That's really cool. Wow. Okay, well, Brian, thanks for submitting this. You know what? I'm gonna point out here. I do like that, and I know I just said it about the last mock draft that I think you get playmakers in those first 3 rounds at some point. But I don't mind that he's eating his vegetables. He's building in the trenches, all the cliches, things like that. I don't know if the Cardinals would wait for the 5th round for a wide receiver and then the 7th round of running back. Just especially, I feel like running back's got to be a priority for the Cardinals at least. I don't think they can make it out of round 4 without taking a running back personally.
So a couple of folks sharing this called "Stick to the Model." So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think running back is a priority. I see them going probably more free agency and maybe taking someone late, but definitely a priority. Yeah. Josh, what do you say? I'm sorry.
Wait. He's saying he's signing Breece Hall in this?
Yeah, he has Breece Hall as a free agent in this.
That makes sense. If they get Breece Hall, then yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, and I know it's a little hard to see because it's so small, but
Yeah.
the thing on the left is a summary of his moves in free
Yeah,
agency.
I'm seeing that now. Thank you.
Yeah. It's
My
really
bad, my
small. It's really small font. So yeah. Josh, what do you say?
I love this draft. I think this is perfect. He did basically the same things I did. So, but yeah, I really like the philosophy here, going for the trenches, and you still got that wide receiver in there that you said you guys were going for. He's got a lot of the same exact players that I took as well, which is phenomenal. I do like the if you get Devin Lloyd, I'm going to be happy for you guys, but I'm also going to cry because that means he didn't come to the Bengals. So that would be a great signing for you guys. And I really like this pick, especially with the free agency moves, because one of the things I don't like about mock drafts before free agency is there's still so many questions that have yet to be answered, and it's really hard to make those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, the players they bring in can really affect the draft strategy 100%. I love Keelan Rutledge. I don't think he's there at pick 104, but boy, I would be ecstatic if we got him. I will mention in this, I'm not taking cornerbacks in my drafts. I know that the Cardinals don't have any household names at cornerback if you're outside of Arizona. We have a lot of young guys that we've drafted, some that have been injured. But they put so much draft capital into that room. And you've got Garrett Williams, who, he's rough year because of injuries, but 2 years ago, he was a top 10 graded cornerback. Been a really good slot cornerback for us a couple of years. You've got Will Johnson, who got in the second round, who looked really good at points. Got Denzel Burke, who played really well as a fifth rounder. You've got now, a couple other guys that they've drafted that may or may not be that guy. But I feel like they've drafted so many guys that they need to just give those guys another year to see who pans out, because I think they might have all the starters they need in house. They just need that year 2 or 3 to become that guy. And if they don't, then you bring in another guy. But there's they've drafted so many guys that if you bring in another guy, someone's they can't all stay, right? So I'm not taking cornerback just because they've got so many that I want to see which ones kind of develop. And I feel comfortable running with the guys we have, even if people outside Arizona don't know who they are, because some of them are actually pretty decent. So I'm not doing that, but that's me. Watch them go ahead and take a couple, right? So, and then, it's not shown he signed Elijah Vera Tucker. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, so there's +3 more. It's truncated them. I see that now on the text. So yeah. But I overall I like it. We talked about going tackle that early. I'm not doing it, but I get it. The player meets a big need for us if we go tackle early. So next we have the other Brian, Brian Abdullah, who's been in the chat. He's his free agents. He's made a bunch of cuts, including Tomlinson and Nichols and Murphy Bunting and a few others. Extended a few folks. He traded away Kyler Murray to the Jets for some picks. Traded Zaven Collins to New England. They reportedly liked him in the draft. He brought in Devin Bush, Cade Mays, interior offensive lineman, Romeo Dubs, receiver, Malcolm Kuntz, an edge, and running back Rico Dowdle. So he did bring in a different running back, right? So real quick, last saying Will Levis isn't a decent. I'm intrigued. I don't want to, I'm intrigued if you give him a look.
Mayo curious,
right? I know. Oh my goodness. So then we got the draft, Muaga, and then we got Messidor, the other, Baines' running mate, right? The other edge. Then we got Thieneman, the safety, who I think is a really good player. Malachi Fields, receiver out of Notre Dame. Rutledge, love him again, right? Taylor Green, quarterback out of Arkansas. Seth McGowan, running back. And Jaheim Lawson, edge out of Clemson. All right. We'll go ahead and start with Josh this time.
Yeah, I like Messidor. He, he looked great in the national championship. I don't think he had the stat line, but if you watched him, He was getting some pressures. He was making a difference really across the entire playoffs. If he's there, right there with after you take Francis at third, I think that's a great pick. Thieneman is a guy I love. If he falls to the Bengals somehow and they don't take him, I might cry. So that is a great pick, especially he didn't re-sign Jalen Thompson, right?
He had a void year this year, so free agency hasn't started. So
I mean, in his mock.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. In his, he did not.
Okay, so yeah, I like that pick early on. I think that helps. And then you're still getting trenches a little bit later on, getting that wide receiver you guys have talked about that you need. I don't know much about Seth or Jaheim, to be honest, or Talon. So I can't really comment on them. Looks like Seth may have an arrest. But yeah, I really like the first half of this draft.
Yeah, Grandizer agrees. He says it's a really good draft.
Yeah.
I think that I especially early on, I would say like again the Muanoa, this tackle. Yeah, maybe it's a little, but he's traded back. So actually, getting him at 9.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
With the trade back and getting him at 9, I like that a whole lot more. Right?
Yeah.
I missed that. That's great.
Yeah. Messidor is like he's not as toolsy, I think, as Bane, and he benefits some from the Bane's attention, but he's a solid edge, right? And he's a little older, so his ceiling, he's doesn't have as much room to develop, but he's effective. I think so. I don't mind that all. Thinman, I love that, right? Rutledge, we know how much I love. Getting a receiver there. I don't know a lot about Fields, but yeah, I think it's a solid mock as well. Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I just want to say, I think we are starting to notice a bit of a trend here in a mid-round pick at a wide receiver and a late-round pick at quarterback here. I think that we're starting to show some of the at least Cardinal fans that watch Mock Draft Monday's draft philosophy.
Yes, for sure. I sometimes take quarterbacks in day 3, but I haven't been doing it consistently. There's a big part of me thinks they're just going to wait till next year.
Yeah.
But but that receiver, I think, again, the offense runs so much through Trey McBride, and we do have 2. I think our number 1 and 2 receivers are set. Michael Wilson really came on second half of the year, and Marvin Harrison Jr., I think with a different coaching staff, is going to get – I don't know if he'll be as good as everyone was hoping, but I think he's going to see improvements. And I think those two as our 1 and 2 receiver with Trey McBride is such a central part. Those 3 you're set.
Yeah.
So any receiver we get isn't a first or second round to me. It's you don't need that guy, but building some depth and getting that slot receiver in the middle rounds makes a lot of sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So next up, we have a friendly Viking.
Ooh.
Starts out with Ruben Bain, Max Ahiakanor. I'm going to mispronounce that every time. An anchor. Jake Golday, linebacker from Cincinnati. Mike Washington, running back who made an appearance earlier. Drew Aller, the toolsy quarterback out of Penn State. Armaj Reed Adams, interior offensive line out of Texas A&M. And Cole Wisniewski, a very tall center out of Texas Tech.
Cool.
Zach, we'll start with you. What do you say about this mock?
Okay, so we don't have a mid-round wide receiver this time, but we do have a late-round quarterback, so the trend is broken a little bit. You know what? I will say in my draft research for the linebacker position, I think Jake Golday is someone who I'm seeing more and more kind of get some attention. And so I don't think that's a bad pick. I really don't. I like that his first 2 picks, he's going in the trenches, and he does take a running back in Mike Washington Jr., who I think is someone to watch. I don't know though if this draft is the new direction of the Arizona Cardinals. So that it's always exciting to see a new regime's first draft because you can really kind of tell like where are they prioritizing it, right? What positions are they willing to use high draft capital on, right? So excited to see that.
Josh.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. Jake Golday is another guy. I agree with Zach. He's someone I've seen recently kind of come up more in talks. Drew Aller is a guy that I have not liked in the past. Back when he was a higher prospect,
You
and
like him now?
I'll admit that. But I think I like him at 141 with
Okay.
kind of the same philosophy that I took Cade Klubnik with. Of worst case scenario, he's a higher end backup, and if maybe you're lucky and he becomes your starter eventually. But also, it is a little scary with that injury, seeing how he kind of recovers from that. But I think I'm okay with that pick there.
Yeah, Aller to me is the bigger toolsy project. And I think he's a higher ceiling, lower floor than Klubnik, who we talked about earlier. Right.
Mhm.
Klubnik's a guy who I could see just maybe coming and being a solid backup, but not likely to be more. There's a universe in which, he kind of takes the Brock Purdy thing and becomes like this guy you didn't expect, but he fits the
Mm-hmm.
system so well. There is a universe where Klubnik is that guy, but it's more likely he's just kind of the backup that fits. Aller is the big guy with the big arm, toolsy guy, but there's a lot of mechanical stuff and injury stuff. And it's a guy like, do you believe you can develop him into that guy? And I haven't been taking him because even though the tools are enticing, I see Mike LaFleur not as the guy who's going to take a shot and trying to develop the big cannon arm guy as much as he's the guy who's going to try to build the McVay Shanahan type system and plug a
Mhm.
guy in, which is literally what Shanahan does, right?
Right.
He has plugged in guys, Jimmy Garoppolo. He tried to draft Trey Lance, develop him, and it didn't work. And then he drafts a guy in, Brock Purdy who happens to really develop nicely, right? But he wasn't the toolsy prospect coming out, right? So to me, and maybe they'll prove me wrong, this doesn't feel like the kind of approach that LaFleur would take at quarterback. But who knows, right? And Grandizer likes the guard Reed Adams, right? So out of A&M, right? Guy maybe who is got some buzz, right? He never gets the buzz in all, but whispers. Here we go. Some whispers about him, the stock rising on the guard, right? I like taking guards on day 3 and kind of developing them early day 3 especially. So yeah, but I like the first couple picks for sure, and I like getting that linebacker in there. And then we talked about Washington earlier. Next up, we have Giznornik. I don't know if I've seen him in the chat, but he is a longtime supporter. He's in Discord. Really good dude.
Ooh.
Giznornik, he's got Ruben Bain. He's got a trade back, still taking Max out of Arizona State. Rodriguez. Then a different quarterback, Carson Beck. Guard Jalen Farmer in round 4. Then Jalen Stroman, safety in round 5. Then a defensive interior lineman, Capehart out of Clemson. Then a cornerback, Andre Fuller out of Toledo in the 7th round. Zach, what do you got?
Okay, so no running back and no wide receiver in this draft. And we've still got our mid-round quarterback. Okay, so mid to late round quarterback.
Yeah.
I and side note, doesn't Carson Beck just sound like the most like backup quarterback name ever?
It
Backup,
really is.
back to
It
the
really
backup.
is.
Shout out Carson Beck. Wish you all the success in the world. But I do obviously I think Ruben Bain will be the pick at 3. Interesting trade there. Okay, so he traded back. Okay, traded back with the Browns. Got a tackle. Yeah, like I think this actually is a well-rounded draft. I would say. In it, there's a lot of nice pieces here. Joe, your insight on the Cardinals cornerback room. Maybe they're due for taking a break from drafting some corners if they do have some young talent to continue to develop. Because I'm a big believer that people always think you have to either sign someone in free agency, draft somebody, or trade for someone. there's another option. Develop the players you got, right?
Yeah.
That's often the best option if you can do it. And so hopefully this new, well, if you're a Cardinals fan, hopefully this new regime can prioritize developing talent, right?
And whether this is a good or bad thing, it's the same. We brought back the same defensive coordinator, so he knows the guys in the room. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
fair.
Real quick, we got Red Feather Workshop. Dana, hi everyone. Appreciate Dana does some really great kind of film study and analysis. Talking Cardinals always contributes to the chat really well. So appreciate you being here. So, Josh.
Okay. I really like Jacob Rodriguez. Big fan of Jacob Rodriguez. I'm a little nervous about taking him in round 3. I think his missed tackles, I hope he gets over it in the NFL, but just that missed tackles rate at round 3 it's just a little too high for me. I think I took him round 4. That's probably about the highest I would take him. Carson Beck, I just talked about Drew Aller. Carson Beck for me is probably the quarterback I like the least in this draft.
More than Diego Pavia?
It's close.
Really?
I really don't like Carson Beck. Like, he is never coming on No Buts About It. I will tell you that right now. I have been rooting for the Steelers to draft Carson Beck so I can continue to root against Carson Beck.
Okay.
Just like I thought he was super overrated at Georgia, and then I just didn't like him. Some of the personal stuff he did, and then I feel like not as bad, but he's like a less talented Johnny Manziel to me.
Okay.
I just feel like something's gonna happen.
Once he gets drafted by the Bengals.
If we draft a quarterback in the 4th round, I'm driving to Cincinnati and punching Duke Tobin.
Oh man.
But unless it's Fernando Mendoza somehow.
Right.
But a Shador situation happens. I'm just not a Beck guy. And what I always say on my channel whenever I criticize these guys is prove me wrong. I would love for these guys to prove me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it just that pick scares me that early on.
That's fair.
But that's all I got to say.
I'm not going to add a whole lot other than Bain and Iaconor or whatever it's pronounced. I'm never going to get that right. Those are the top 2 picks, and more often than not in my mock drafts. That's the most common combination for me.
Yeah,
Bain is the guy I'll take at 3 if he's there, if we're not trading back, and then for that day 2 tackle, Max is a guy who's he's kind of new to playing football, but played pretty well, has the physical tools, so there's more upside. So when we're taking a guy on day 2 who we're hoping will develop into our right tackle of the future, and we're signing a free agent who's a bridge at that position, like I think we might, Max fits that for me. So there's not a whole lot new there, but that's kind of for me a common combination. So next we have Justice 21, Robert Moore, who was in here earlier. He's got Spencer Fano. He's traded back, right? So he's got to trade back to get a couple extra picks. Then takes the tackle out of Utah. Lee Hunter, defensive line out of Texas Tech. R. Mason Thomas, edge out of Oklahoma. Jacob Rodriguez making another appearance. Jennings Dunker, the man with the glorious red mullet. Iowa offensive tackle who's probably going to move into guard. Ted Hurst, who made an appearance on one of your mock drafts. Drew Aller. Pat Coogan, interior offensive line out of Indiana. And Kalen Black, another Indiana player, running back. So we got some Indiana folks that maybe you might be able to tell us a little bit about, Josh. So why don't we start with you, Josh?
Yeah, Pat Coogan was a guy who he was kind of an unsung hero for the Hoosiers. Luckily, near the end of the year, he got talked about a little bit more, but he definitely kind of got lost in the Fernando Mendoza hype. But Pat Coogan, I don't know that he's the best, like, in terms of measurables at his position, but he's a very technical player, and he understands the position well. He understands blocking well, which is what you want in a center. You want a very technical guy. and they're going to be smaller anyway. Jason Kelsey, one of the greatest centers we've ever seen, extremely undersized for that position. And Kalen Black, he was another guy. He is just another unsung guy on that IU team. Him and Roman Hemby both just played really well. Kalen was a bit more explosive, I think, than Hemby was. They traded off a lot, though. So you kind of he's used to that divided backfield as well. If you were to keep James Conner for another year, sounds like we're kind of split on whether we're going to do that or not. I think Kalen Black would be someone who's already used to that and could develop behind James Conner. But if Conner were to get hurt again, Kalen Black would be used to jumping in there and being the RB1 as well.
Awesome. Zach.
I'm going to bring him up again because Ted Hurst is definitely one of the players I'm starting to really like in this year's draft. There was one analysis I read of him that said he was football fast, right? And there's the guys that run an impressive 40 speed, and then there's the guys that has a football in their hands and they can take it to the house. And I don't know, he's a playmaker, right? And so I think mid-round wide receiver Ted Hurst is you're doing all right. Again, I'm not seeing. Let's see. We have our mid and late round wide receiver and quarterback, and a late round running back. Okay, yeah, we're keeping on trend here. Digging. Okay, so he traded back in this scenario then.
Yeah, I got a second and a third rounder for moving back to 8.
Okay.
So, yeah.
GM of the year. Yeah, I like it.
I think that's. I don't know that you're going to be able to pull that off in this year's draft, but who knows, right? Yeah.
Well, I feel like this year's draft tackles are going to get overdrafted a lot, and Spencer Fano, I haven't done a lot of research on him. I haven't seen his tape, but if that's a tackle that could does he play right tackle for the Cardinals?
He would, yeah. Paris Johnson Jr. is our left tackle, so anyone we draft is going to be playing right tackle. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Which is why I don't mind waiting till day 2 to get that neck.
Yeah.
If we needed a left tackle, I would be all about reaching for at number 3 because you got to have that.
A left tackle, yeah.
Right, but because we have a solid left tackle,
or maybe the Cardinals get a left-handed quarterback in Tua, and they need a right tackle. I went there.
God. They get Tua. They draft Carson Beck. It's a great time. Everyone's happy.
I like it.
Zach, you just always seem like such a nice guy. And then you just but I think it's a setup. I think you have this nice guy energy just so you can just stick me in the side with that knife. I don't know.
Well, I have seen the Cardinals fans out there that have been saying they should trade Kyler for Tua straight up, which I do not understand. But
okay.
Doesn't make sense for either team.
I know. I don't think is there a lose trade out there?
Yeah. A couple of comments real quick, and Robert saying, I think you cited this. Jeremy Green from Sports Socracy says that Ted Hurst is football fast.
Yeah.
Dana is saying that R. Mason Thomas is undersized 240 with below average arm. Great player, amazing burst, but doesn't fit Ralph's archetype to this point where he has 260 plus edges. Okay. Brian saying, except what happens if 5 to 7 teams go tackle in round 1, and then we're reaching for some day 3 quality tackle in round 2, maybe. But
I'd be shocked if that happened.
I don't think it's going to, because we're one of the first picks in round 2. I think we're going to be able to get a guy I feel comfortable with. I think Miller or Max are going to, one of those 2 guys will be available to us. I'm good with that. Tua and Beck, just shoot me now.
I'm building the Florida quarterback room in Arizona.
Yes. Oh, God. Yeah. So, Rodriguez, we talked about him. A lot of these players we talk. I need to look into Ted Hurst more. I live in Georgia, so he's playing here in Georgia State. But I need to check him out. But yeah, overall, I like the picks, the positions for sure. Getting that interior defensive line, getting some edge help, linebacker, offensive line for sure. Now we have Breadstick Daddy, who has been in here. I think it's Austin who's been in the chat. Austin Hoy who's been in here, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, but I think this is you. He's got Ruben, Max. I mentioned that combo is the most common. Now he did go cornerback in round 3, D'Angelo Pons. He's also got a Jets trading Murray for a 4th round pick. He also went with Billy Schroth, who I had, the guard. There he is, Austin. We've got Skylar Gill Howard, defensive interior from Texas Tech, Bryce Lance, and Cole Wisniewski. Some names that have popped up in here before. Zach, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, Austin, great job, great draft. I like that. So he broke the trend. There's no quarterback in here. There's no mid-round wide receiver. It's only a late round. And no running back. Okay, so this is unique. This is interesting. We like this here on Mock Draft Mondays. I never know about trades when it comes to these simulators. I don't see it, but I do like the philosophy of the Cardinals trading in this scenario, trading off Kyler Murray and also accumulating more picks. So the Rams really need quarterback help. So I have done a healthy amount of research into D'Angelo Pons. I don't know. I don't know if the Cardinals would take him round 3 if that's the best way to go personally. But I wouldn't argue with the first 2 picks at all.
Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think I really like Pons personally. I understand why there would be some hesitancy on Zach's part. And round 3 may be a little high for him. I don't really know where he's going to go because he's kind of gotten some hype from the national championship. He made some big plays, well, just even throughout the playoffs as well. He's a bit undersized for the position he plays. So that has been a bit of a concern, but it hasn't really affected him so far. Of course, the NFL is a completely different game. But he's kind of one of those guys who what he lacks in his height and arm length, he's able to make up for in his knowledge of the game. So I like Pons a lot. He's someone who I'm kind of hoping is there when Cincinnati gets to round 3. Of course, there's some other guys I'd like to take there as well, but I wouldn't be mad about taking him in round 3 either. So I like that pick.
Yeah. Again, for me, I'm not really looking at cornerback. To be honest, I don't know a lot about the cornerbacks in the class because I haven't looked at them much because I don't take them. So I'm going to trust you guys, but I will talk a little bit of a guy who's appeared, I think, on a few other mocks, but I want to talk about real quick. And Peo may or may not have to bail. Peo's dealing with a big time storm where he's at. So if he drops or anything or has to go, that's why.
Yeah, I think I better head out. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much for everyone in the chat. Joe, always a pleasure. Josh, great meeting you. And
good to meet you.
Feel free to collab anytime. And thanks again for having me on Mock Draft Monday again, Joe. Honestly, such a pleasure.
We'll have you again. Be safe. I know you got a crazy storm there, so we'll make sure let us know that you're safe and okay.
For sure. Thanks. Stay warm, everyone.
All right. Peace.
Bye.
So I'm going to real quick talk about Skylar Gill Howard. So he is a defensive interior lineman. Real quick, let me fix this real quick. We got Peo's gone, so I've got to kind of get things back.
Classic Rams fan causing all these issues.
Right, messing with things. Okay, here we go. So Skylar Gill Howard is interesting. He's a little small interior defensive lineman, 6'1", 290, right? So he's not the big interior defensive lineman. He, more kind of maybe a little bit more of a disruptor. Graded really well, 88.6 last year, though only played 7 games, 83.8 the year before, 73.1 a couple years back. This year he had 1 sack, but his advanced grades on like pass rush grades were like 90, true pass set pass rush 90, pass rush run rate 14.4, which is good. And also his run stop rate was pretty good, like really good, and his run defense grade 70.4 is decent. So 2 years ago, or last season, 2024, he had 5 sacks as an interior defensive lineman. So he's a guy who's got a little pass rush juice. He's a little undersized, but has graded well. So I'm a little bit intrigued by him as a possible guy, maybe a little bit, kind of in the middle rounds. So I want to kind of mention him. And then we've got, I believe it is one more mock draft, and this is Red Sea Corey, who's a regular contributor. He starts with the tackle that we've seen a lot out of Florida. Then he takes Veneman early in the second round. He's got a Kyler Murray trade for the second round pick and a third round next year. Then he takes Zion Young out of Missouri, Connor Lew, a center out of Auburn, Tareen York, linebacker from A&M, Drew Aller, Damani Jackson, cornerback of Alabama, and then Lorenzo Styles Jr., safety out of Ohio State. Any thoughts or comments on this draft?
Yeah, I mean, Thieneman, it makes sense. I'm assuming here he's assuming Thompson is gone. So I like Thieneman. Also, I haven't watched him as much, but I have been reading more about Connor Lew and kind of slowly falling in love with him. I don't know that he's better than Jake Slaughter there, but again, maybe Jake Slaughter wasn't available. Maybe he ran into that situation that I did. I don't think Connor Lew was available for me either, but Connor Lew, I think, would be a fair pick. I know there's been some debate here about whether you need a center. That Drew Aller pick, though, still, I think I can be accepting of that at 141. That's about my ceiling for it, and you guys are pushing the ceiling on it, but I'll take it.
Nice. Yes. So I'm gonna talk about Zion Young. So like Zion Young out of Missouri, I know this is going to give some folks kind of in the Cardinals fan base. There was another guy out of Missouri we drafted, Darius Robinson, right, in 2024, a couple years ago, who has been real. I mean, he seems like a nice kid, works hard, but he has just not played well. His PF grades have been really horrendous. He's just not lived up to the draft as a first round pick, what we would like. And so Darius Robinson was, 6'5", 285. So he's another big edge. Zion Young, 6'5", 262. So I think Zion Young will give some Cardinals fans a twitch, right? Just that trauma twitch, right? From the Darius Robinson, what has not been worked out so far. But Zion Young, I hope, and I haven't seen the film on him, and maybe someone who can speak to this. One of the issues with Darius Robinson is just not the bend and he's too much of a tweener. He's not stout enough to be on the inside, not bendy enough to be on the outside. Zion Young is same height, but not as big. So maybe he's a little bendier. I don't know. He had 8 sacks last year, 85.0 grade, good against the run grade wise. So Zion Young's an intriguing kind of day 2 edge rusher. He will give a lot of Cardinals fans, though, some flashbacks or some, to what we've had with Darius Robinson so far. But I think he's an interesting pick. So yeah, that's kind of what I've got there, though, on that one. And that actually brings us to the end of the mock drafts. We are done with getting through them. So, Josh, Zach, Payo Time had to leave, so hopefully everyone's following Payo Time if you aren't already. But make sure you follow him. Josh, why don't you let folks know where to find you, and also share any final thoughts you might have on the draft, Mock Draft Monday, anything else that you want to share before we get out of here?
Well, this was terrible. No, no, it's always a great time. I love hanging out with Joe and all you guys, Cardinal Rule fans, viewers. Love trying to steal some of you guys as well. Even those have been critical of me. But no, so my channel is called No Buts About It. And what we do is we kind of just talk about everything. We try to talk about as many teams as possible. Right now, it's a part-time thing. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you stream podcasts. You can also find our YouTube channel, which Grand Azir has kindly put right there in the channel or the chat. And like I said, I'll post shorts if someone big name gets cut. I make posts in the community tab of like big names getting extensions, of coaches getting hired. I try to keep you as up to date as possible. I'm not ESPN, but I do my best to be as close to that. I'm a Bengals fan. I like to talk about the Bengals. I live in Indiana, so I talk about the Colts a lot. Try to talk about the Cardinals a little bit for you guys who have come on over. We like to have Joe on, like to have some other YouTubers on, just really like anything. We do draft stuff. It's a big kind of syndicate. But I appreciate all of you guys who have been hanging out here with us. I appreciate Joe for having us on, and it is always a great time. After the Bengals threw a pass outside to a tackle, we have some hesitation. Cody Ford, our wide receiver 3.
Well,
Yeah.
Cody Ford was with the Cardinals for a while, so we have a little bit of trauma history there too.
Don't worry, we do too. That's like his main, his like only big play was that catch, which is concerning. But hey, we'll take it.
And then, and Granizer, thank you for your time and insights. And Lorenzo saying, have to rewatch and get the names, research, see why they're drafting players. Great insights for new players. Yeah, and that's what Mock Draft Monday is really. For me, it's a chance to learn about this draft class. I think it's a great way to learn about the players. And I think that's what it is, hopefully, for the audience. There's some folks in the audience who know more about this draft class than I do, and they bring great insights in the chat. And folks who watch this, it's just our way to have a fun time learning about the draft class, getting ready for the NFL draft. And then when you watch it, and on day 3, some random defensive lineman that you like gets picked in the 6th round, you're like, I remember him, right? It makes it more enjoyable. But no, this was a lot of fun. Zach's a great guy. He had to get out of here because of weather. Josh, it's been a lot of fun. We just had a lot of fun with, today. I think it was one of the more fun streams I've had in a while. So I appreciate you all being here and just the good attitude and everything. So we're going to get out of here. If you're watching this, be safe, stay warm wherever you are. And we will see you next week, I believe. And then, Iron Wilson, I'll have I'll have a mock draft from Stick the Motto for you guys next Monday. Awesome. Submit them in the Discord. So definitely get into the Discord there. But yeah, Kyler Bird's going to be hosting some of these, and we're going to keep going between now and the draft. So everyone, thanks for being here. You know where to find me at JOKOMO13, JOKOMO13 on Twitter, and here at the Cardinal Rule. Follow Josh, follow Zach. Thank you all, everyone. Be well.